It's Corporate Cynicism Weekly. No, I'm sorry. It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 363, and I'm Doug White. It is Friday, the 16th of February, 2024. We've got Batman, Microsoft, war driving, OpenAI, DevDrive, scams, the Grateful Dead, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
Business Security Weekly is live streamed and recorded on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Each week, we address the challenges facing CISOs through our guest interviews, including former and active CISOs. Our news segment is focused on leadership and communication to better help security leaders translate and communicate security risks into business risks. Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, Tyler Robinson, and others add their expertise to the conversation. I'm Matt Alderman, and I hope you search for Business Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher and subscribe to download our latest content.
All right, it's the Security Weekly News with me, Doug White. It is episode 363. Well, Microsoft had Patch Tuesday this week, which was actually on Fat Tuesday and not Ash Wednesday, which was yesterday or 2 days ago, but Fat Tuesday, and pushed out a whole bunch of new security updates for their products. Now, they specifically in this update mentioned 3 vulnerabilities that they said are being exploited in the wild, which if they're willing to say that, it's probably bad. So they patched 72 security vulnerabilities that were documented in the updates, but Microsoft issued specific warnings about the risk of remote code execution, security feature bypass in the operating system, and information disclosure, as well as privilege escalations in relation to 3 specific vulnerabilities that were patched in the Patch Tuesday release. It sounds like the bedtime stories I used to read to my daughter, you know, like if you don't behave and go to sleep, the remote code execution is going to go slither, slither, slither up the stairway and slither, slither, slither under your bed. And then you grab her foot, you know, and then, we didn't really do that very often. I learned pretty early on that you don't want to scare your kid, but I'm afraid of remote code execution, and you should be too. But anyway, Microsoft marked 3 vulnerabilities in the exploited column. So they got an actual indicator, and they warned that phishing and other attacks that bypass the security protections were ongoing. So look, patch up. Don't scare your kids at bedtime. You'll pay for that. But as I learned the hard way, but patch it up. Even on your desktops at home, be sure you have run those updates because these are bad things. Remember when war driving was a thing? I mean, I guess it's still a thing, but remember when it was a big deal? I mean, like I remember these like big articles that were in like Time magazine and stuff where they were interviewing people, and that people were talking about how they had all these like hobo symbols they wrote in chalk on the curb to indicate what kind of Wi-Fi was there and all this stuff. And I even had a student do a project, and I actually flew a Cessna in a really slow spiral over a town, and we used air snort and mapped out all of the Wi-Fi in the town for this student like research project. Man, those were the days, right? Well, this article says there's a couple of new Wi-Fi auth bypass vulnerabilities in open source, which could allow for renewed war driving and network attacks, because all of these vulnerabilities involve you being close enough to that network, which is back into the war driving realm. Now, I mean, I could certainly see that coming back. I mean, do these kids today even have a cell scope and a Yagi handy in their car? I mean, no, please note, cell scopes are a federal crime in the United States, so you probably shouldn't have one, and you probably shouldn't encourage their use. But the vulnerabilities that were found are in the WPA supplicant, which is an INET wireless daemon software. Now, what that is, if you aren't familiar with all those low-level things, is it's a support library for WPA, WPA2, and WPA3, which are the encryption algorithms that are the controllers that are being used for lots and lots of different things, including all Android devices, all Linux pretty much, and Chromebooks. So yeah. Now it's maybe not war driving and like in the old days, but it's definitely some kind of driving, walking, something. No user interaction is required to exploit the vulnerability, but the attacker does have to be in range of the victim and know the SSID of an enterprise network that the victim previously connected to. Well, guess what? That's not that hard to figure out. And back in the old audit days when I used to do this, one of our first things was sitting across the street with a Yagi and seeing how many Wi-Fi networks we could see off-site. So the attacker can use this vulnerability then to connect to the internet through that network. No big deal there, I guess, unless they're downloading something illegal. They can attack other devices that are on that network segment, and they can intercept information or deliver malware. So this is back to the old war driving tests that we used to do in physical pen tests. Now, Google has patched the vulnerability with Chrome 1.18, and Android says fixes are coming any day now. Linux has a patch, but the patch has yet to be delivered by a lot of distros. So you can't get this patch unless you want to compile your own distro. So you have to wait for whoever made your distro, Ubuntu, whatever, to actually issue the patch. There is a really nice video that's attached to this article that demonstrates how the attack works. If you're interested in such things, it was a really concise and clear thing. It's not a very long video, but it actually did show you how the attack actually works and how to do it. So people will be doing that. Well, we all get those stupid failed delivery scams all the time. I mean, I get several a week. The ones, and they say they're from the United States Postal Service or the Royal Mail or Rob's Mule Train Delivery or whatever, delivery service may be in your area. And of course, they're all phishing attacks. But Sentinel-1 said that they had found a Python script that is going to add to the ability to send all these things out easily. The script they got is called SNS Sender, and it basically allows bulk SMS spam delivery via the Amazon Simple Notification Service, which is a cloud-based service that AWS provides. The phishing kit automatically inserts links to the attacker control websites that are out there, like the one for the U.S. Postal Service, which can collect all the info for the scammers. Sentinel Labs said that this was a new technique in the context of cloud attack tools and had not been done before. The author of the script uses the handle Arduino_das, and that name appears apparently in more than 150 phishing kit files that Sentinel-1 had identified. SNS Sender has a text file which has a list of phishing links. So you build a text file. This is if you've ever used Python. I make tons of fake data for my classes with Python. And it has you have a text file, you put all your phishing links in there, and it randomly picks one and then pushes that link and information into a smishing message that gets sent out. And it has a text file then attached to it that stores all the target phone numbers, message contents, and Amazon Web Service access keys. The article says it appears to be a work in progress as it contains a lot of features that are not currently available, but are going to be available soon. The discovery of a phishing tool dedicated to the exploitation of Amazon SNS is a new development, but they also went on and said we should expect a lot more targeting of cloud environments because, more people are using cloud environments, more cloud environments are available, more features are available via the cloud and so forth. Now, if I could just figure out how much I owe AWS Workspace, I'd be happy, but, so keep an eye out for this stuff. Well, steal your face is an old line from the Grateful Dead. You can even see people with bumper stickers on their car that say steal your face and stuff, but it was related to the Grateful Dead. But in a modern context, it's not just about riding around in an old Volkswagen van and passing out in parking lots after you took too much of something. It's a new motto for facial recognition technology. So Group IB researchers said that a new hacking technique involves social engineering, which then allows them to steal the victim's facial rec data and then create deep fakes to gain unauthorized access to, wait for it, your bank account. Because you do use multi-factor authentication on your bank accounts and other financials, right? You do use that, correct? And if you use facial recognition to log into your bank accounts, you have multi-factor turned on. And the answer is not on the floor, young man. Did you enable MFA on your bank account, or is your mother just crying tears of joy? You all know that I use this show in place of therapy, right? Yeah, so it's like, sorry about that, Dad. But anywho, the report says the attack uses a previously unknown iOS Trojan called goldpickaxe.ios, which collects facial recognition data, identity documents, and SMS text messages. So maybe that MFA is not going to help you very much if your bank account uses facial rec and SMS verification, and your phone is what you're using for all that. Because if they get this on your phone, they can get access to all those things, and So far, the group, which is called Gold Factory, appears to be a Chinese-speaking attacker who has close ties to the Gigabud Trojan and has been conducting possibly experimental attacks in Vietnam and Thailand, but Group IB says they're likely going to expand their reach soon. The Trojan is available via a fake Google Play Store, and it requires that the potential on iOS, it requires that the potential victim utilize unusual installation methods. They did not say what those were. But it also means maybe that you can install this thing on Android somehow, and it's not as hard. So the attack may succeed more often on Android because, as you well know, trying to walk someone through an install is a challenge. And I'm sure most of you have done it when, Great Aunt Ida called and said they were trying to install this thing called Angry Birds, and they don't know how to get it to work, and, they want you to tell them what to do. But, where is the any key? You said press any key, but I don't think I have an any key. Is that the Windows key? No. Hang on. No. But anyway, this one is about getting people to stop falling for social engineering attacks like this, but good luck with that because they constantly fall for it. So you may want to send out warnings to your people about this kind of thing. I don't install things on my phone before I have fully researched it. I try to actually evaluate anything I plan to install because it's paranoid, but it worries me a lot. And, I won't be able to drive around in my old van and follow the dead if my bank account's empty, which might actually be a Grateful Dead lyric. I'm not sure. Keep on trucking, that kind of stuff. All right. Microsoft and OpenAI revealed a rogues gallery comic book-esque list of groups that they are worried about, including Fancy Bear and Kim Sucky and 3 other state-sponsored actors from all kinds of evil empires, according to the West. Apparently, these groups have been using ChatGPT as part of their cybercrime operations. Imagine that. Say it isn't so, ChatGPT. You're such a slut. I thought you were mine and mine alone, but no, you're working with the North Koreans. But apparently the Russian, North Korean, Iranian, and Chinese hacking groups are using ChatGPT for scripting and phishing help. Well, gee, imagine that. They're also using it for vulnerability research, target recon, detection evasion, and more. Imagine that. And basically this all came out in a blog post from Microsoft Threat Intelligence. Now, OpenAI said that these accounts had been terminated as a result of collaborative information sharing with Microsoft. Well, good, but that's not going to stop them. They'll just make more accounts. They probably already have more accounts. So these are just the ones you know about. Fancy Bear, Kim Sucky, Imperial Kitten, Aquatic Panda, and Salmon Typhoon, which sounds like a lineup I once saw at CBGB's, I think, back in like the 80s. They're all using ChatGPT for naughty activity. Hard to figure out what that is. And I do kind of want to see a salmon typhoon, though. I really do. Can you imagine what that would smell like? Warm sea air, a typhoon of salmon, kind of like that dumpster you walked past at that roadside sushi bar in Puerto Rico that time. Yeah, like that. You know what that smells like. But anyway, early analysis of this usage is that they were primarily using it to generate phishing content. Because guess what? ChatGPT has a lot better vocabulary, grammar, and English knowledge than a lot of the people who need it. They were also using it for language translation, general research. That's pretty much how I use it. I don't tend to write phishing messages, but I definitely use it for all kinds of things. I don't happen to invade the Ukraine with the intel I've gathered. I tended to leave them alone, but some others not so much. Well, Microsoft identified 9 separate threat tactics related to large language models in their post. So they have a very sophisticated post here if you're interested. But it remains to be seen how you actually stop people from using these things for ill, since most of the things they're doing are things we're all doing, Well, except for that whole invading of Danzig, Germany kind of thing. But I mean, at that point, we're going to have to come to terms with what happens when people use these tools in ways they weren't intended. It happens. DevDrive, if you aren't familiar with it, is a Microsoft product that is essentially a virtual hard drive. It basically lets you set up virtual hard drive partitions, and it was originally, I think, primarily used for sharing of codes, like source code and all that kind of stuff. So it's, think GitHub, but on a local basis. So you could put stuff in DevDrive and share it with all your developers and let them pull the source code down and check it out and put it back in and all that kind of stuff. But basically, it's a way to create a virtual storage space so you don't have to share your whole hard drive or a folder on your hard drive that maybe somebody could get loose from. So you put them in a separate partition. And, you can get really granular with storage and set up lots of dev drives for different things, different developers, different groups, and what have you. Well, anyway, Microsoft issued a warning about a fresh Windows 11 and Windows 10 build that they released on Canary and the dev channels of Windows Insider program. And the warning was about rollbacks. Now, rollbacks in Microsoft and most things mean that you've installed something, you say, oops, this isn't working, and you want to go back to a previous version. So they basically said that if you do a rollback and you're using DevDrive, well, you won't be using it anymore because the rollback will actually basically cause it to fail. So now this is nothing new. And we've all set up shared drive spaces, and we've all seen things fail everywhere from 10 megabyte hard drives with a seized motor to smoke coming out of an SSD that got hit by lightning, attack ships burning off the shores of Orion, and all that stuff. But I guess the bottom line is you do have a backup, right, of your dev drive or everything else for that matter. I mean, if you got, I don't care what it is, any sort of storage, RAID 6, RAID 9999, even that can fail, and I might have made that last one up. But any sort of thing can fail, and rollback is not a backup. Please don't ever get the idea that a rollback is the same thing as an actual backup. So you need to ensure that you have backups, you have static out-of-band backups or anything else, because whether you're using fancy dev drive stuff or not, stuff can fail. So be prepared, and otherwise, Fancy Bear is coming to get you, or the slithering vulnerability that's coming up the stairway. Keep that in mind tonight. Now, this other was a pretty interesting article from both a usefulness and a scary perspective. Now, we've all gotten that dreaded phone call from Aunt Ida who needs us to come by and fix her computer because it keeps beeping, or when Uncle Milt shows up at your house at your family party at the holidays with a MacBook that's gotten run over by his car after it fell off the roof, hands it to you in a box full of chunks and says, you can fix this, right? I'll just hang out with your dad while you get it straightened out because I need it. Yeah, well, I used to use LogMeIn for a lot of this stuff, and I particularly on my dad's computer, because as my dad got very old, I basically just told him, look, Dad, anything you want to install, anything you see flashing, you need to ask me about, because my dad was in that old person phase where you just start clicking on everything and going, I don't know, I just clicked okay, and but LogMeIn's expensive. It's good. It's a very nice product, but it's really hard to cancel, as I learned, and it's very expensive. But the article has all kinds of other approaches you can use to do this same kind of remote work. And I of course immediately flagged that as a security vector or a threat vector, because now you're sharing stuff. So Microsoft has features in Windows 10 and Windows 11 that will allow you to run something that's called Quick Assist, which I'd never heard of. And there's also a feature called Assist Another Person. So yeah, it's like free tech support for everyone. But basically it works like LogMeIn, it sounded like, and you get a code and you share that code with the other end, and then that's basically full remote control. So of course spammers will be doing the very same thing. Now read me the code, okay? It's probably a computerized voice. Now read me a code, and I am indeed your grandson, yes. But of course, you can do this with Zoom, you can do it with other interaction tools online, but you can't get full control like you can with this, because this will let you take over their desktop just like LogMeIn did. The article's pretty interesting, and I think you should probably read it, since this is going to definitely be used for social engineering soon, targeting your employees and your family members. It's a very helpful product, don't get me wrong. I looked at it this morning. I was like, wow, I wish I'd known about this when I was paying all that money for LogMeIn. But basically, this is right there, but it's kind of like my wrecking bar. You know, it's not just a way to bash someone's brains in a road rage incident. It could be really useful too, but be careful, right? I mean, because if you use it the wrong way, bad things can happen. We'll say it once again now. Oh, I hope you understand. When it's done and over, Lord, a man is just a man, but this man is none other than the amazing Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaran.
How's it going, Dr. Dog? What's happening?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm taking my 11-year-old daughter to a sort of rock gig-ish in about 20 minutes after we get off here. So we're just filling in time with cyber before we get our true passion of live music.
Sounds fun.
My hair's also going really non-corporate and out of control, so I probably need to fix it before I get sacked.
You need to definitely get a nice corporate hairdo with like your hair slicked back like American Psycho or something. Go full on Wall Street, oil your beard, you know, the whole thing. Get a Bentley.
I'm definitely going to get sacked. Okay, right. Let's get into this. Today's article comes from Tech Republic and is titled Google Threat Analysis Groups Spyware Research, How CSVs Target Devices and Applications. They suggest there's a looming shadow. Commercial surveillance vendors, CSVs, they say, that's not confusing at all, and we'll not mix that up with other well-known CSVs, or will we? I wonder. I even wonder why we bother sometimes. But anyway, the latest report by Google's Threat Analysis Group, calling themselves TAG, unveils a disturbing reality. Unveils, meaning only if you've been living under a rock and forgot about many, including Pegasus Project. The book by the same name, which I'm currently reading at the minute, close to finishing it. Actually really interesting, quite good book, better than the last one I read. The group states that TAG looked further into the world of commercial surveillance vendors who are operating under a veil of legitimacy, they say. These vendors pose a significant threat to individuals, organizations, and society at large. Oh, yes, they do. I do laugh at the legitimacy, to be honest. To me, it always feels like more of a government domain than the private field, but don't get me started on that. Okay, so within their ecosystem, sophisticated spyware infiltrates devices, and I am told that individual privacy is under siege and the very foundations of democracy are at risk, which sounds pretty serious, right? Unlike traditional cyber criminals, CSVs, I don't like calling it that, operate in a legal gray area, or in my humble opinion, just flaunt their wares without a care in the world. The report states that they openly offer their services, complete with websites, marketing materials, and even industry conference appearances. Unlike me and Dr. Doug, they don't get to go to any industry conferences at the minute. Bad days. This facade of normalcy makes them difficult to track and regulate, they say, creating a fertile ground for exploitation. Unlike state-sponsored actors, CSVs are not bound by international treaties or ethical considerations, allowing them to act with impunity, which really made me chuckle because I was just thinking, yeah, Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, they all appear to be ethical. Of course they are. Anyway, I'll go on. Traditional cyber espionage focuses on infiltrating networks and stealing data. CSVs, however, have a different objective. Individuals, journalists, human rights activists, political dissidents, these are the specific targets, it appears, of their intrusive spyware. This shift raises serious concern about freedom of expression. Actually really bad things, to be honest. The suppression of dissident and the chilling effect it has on civil society. The stolen data becomes a weapon used for intimidation, blackmail, and silencing critical voices. Just look at any of the autocracies, or I wouldn't even say the other ones. I'll get in trouble. get doxxed. But yeah, all them bad people out there doing bad things to good people, or at least people trying to highlight badness. The Google Tag report highlights the alarming prevalence of zero-day exploits used by CSVs. These unknown vulnerabilities, often targeting Google products like Chrome and Android, grant attackers, as we know, unfettered access to devices. The report claims that half of all known, well, it makes me laugh, half of all known zero-day exploits, bit of an oxymoron there, but you get what I'm talking about, targeting Google products can be attributed to CSVs, showcasing their extensive resources and aggressive tactics. And it really does seem that that's where the big money is. That's the get-rich-quick zero-day schemes, isn't it? Furthermore, the report shines a light on the mobile focus of CSVs, the vast amount of personal data stored on mobile phones. It's getting bigger and bigger, coupled with their constant connectivity, makes them prime targets for surveillance. Spyware designed to exploit mobile vulnerabilities silently collects SMS messages, calls, GPS locations, even audio-video recordings. And if you look at the Pegasus project, live listening to the microphone and even your camera at one point, and maybe now and maybe in the future. So these all paint an intimate picture of the target's life. The CSV ecosystem is a complex web of interconnected actors, each playing a crucial role in the proliferation of targeted surveillance. And at the center stands the vendors offering a range of services from spyware development to exploit acquisition. Governments, who are normally the clients, right, leverage these services to target individuals of interest, obviously raising ethical concerns and accountability, and even potential human rights abuses. Not that anybody would be involved in that, right? Vulnerability researchers and exploit brokers operate on the fringes, their motives often shrouded in ambiguity, which really just sounds like a way to feel better about yourself. At the end of the day, them guys need to sleep at night. Sleeping on their big bundles of cash, I guess, helps them sleep better. While some researchers responsibly disclose vulnerabilities, others sell them to the highest bidder, fueling the black market for zero-day exploits. This market just thrives in the absence of robust regulations and ethical frameworks, creating a breeding ground for the malicious activity. So there we go. The report underscores the critical role of timely patching and mitigating the threats posed by CSVs. However, the time lag between vulnerability disclosure and the patch release often leaves the users exposed for weeks and months. Just look at Eternal Blue and all that. How long were they sitting in the background with just zero code exploits and stuff like that, remote code exploitation without the end user having to do anything on their end? How many of them are actually in the wild? I guess lots. Okay, so this highlights the need for faster patching cycles. Vendors must prioritize rapid development and deployment of security patches, especially for critical vulnerabilities. And us, the cyber professional, we need to get faster at updating our programs and getting them patches into production from non-production and audit testing and stuff like that. Collaborative vulnerability management, increased collaboration between researchers, vendors, and CERTs can expedite vulnerability disclosure, analysis, and patching. Transparency and communication. We need to talk to each other. I say it all the time. The Google Tag report serves as a start from Google. I think the report actually says that Google's doing loads of cool stuff, but I believe they could do better. The sheer number of Google products targeted by CSVs highlights to me that they should be doing more. The report talks about the challenges with the observation of an increasing rate of zero-day discovery, raising concerns about an escalating arms race. I guess that's always been there. It's always been cat and mouse. It talks about a leaked commercial proposal mentioned in the report, which apparently sheds light on the lucrative nature of the CSV industry. But we've always known, like, what a CSV remote code exploitation on an Apple device. They were going for what, $1 million and stuff like that. Anyway, protect ourselves, collective responsibility. We need to get involved. In the face of this evolving threat, the responsibility to protect ourselves lies not just with individuals, but policymakers. We all need to get involved. Something that you cybersecurity professionals can do. Definitely your business should implement mobile endpoint protection, MEP solutions to safeguard against malicious apps, phishing attacks, and data breaches. Obviously enforce strong password policies requiring complex passwords, and of course regular changes, multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, talk about it all day. Educate employees on the best practices, including recognizing suspicious activities, avoiding risky downloads, and protecting sensitive data, and utilize encryption, of course. Some additional proactive measures, conduct regular security assessments to proactively identify vulnerabilities. Do you know, it's like, this is the point where you need to get involved, be proactive, not just reactive, not just patching. You need to go and do some threat hunting or stuff like that. If your network's not segmented, I just give up with you. And you need to monitor, but you also need to get in there and do some cool stuff. Okay, so with a few things to think about there, I would personally start with a soft reset of your devices. Often in my experience, a lot of this malware runs in memory, and after a reset, they will need to infect you again. Although I also believe that if they want to infect you, they will. So it's actually a bit of a lost cause, sorry to say. If you must, you should take different and more extreme measures, especially if you're in a position where you need to keep safe national secrets and all that jazz. So there we go. Back to Dr. Doug in the studio, who already knows all your salty secrets, and he's showing them to me. Peace out, party people.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, your salty secrets are safe with me. Yeah, exactly. Unless I've had a few drinks, and then I'm probably just going to tell you the whole thing. All right, and finally, you may or may not remember the Clipper chip, but this was the original encryption backdoor issue, and this issue is back. Now, the original issue, the U.S. government wanted a backdoor built into the Clipper chip, which was an encryption tool, and they pretty much guaranteed, that no one would ever use a Clipper chip. I mean, immediately people were like, no, hell no. I mean, I always feel like I'm a really boring person compared to people that are always so worried, but I do get it. I mean, I support the privacy side too. Well, the European Court of Human Rights has ruled that laws requiring crippled encryption with backdoors built into it and extensive data retention violate the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, this may well end the data service surveillance legislation in Europe that's called chat control. Now, I see both sides of it, believe me. I work with the police a lot. And police are investigating the omelet killer, and the need to wiretap the omelet killer becomes important. And unfortunately, the omelet killer only uses text and encrypted communication. Well, now, in the perfect police world, a judge says, go ahead, and they take the master key out of the sealed box in Commissioner Gordon's office and unlock the encrypted text to find the next victim and save the day. The omelet killer goes up the river to Sing Sing, and on the next episode, yeah. But in real life, people abuse these things too. And people don't trust stuff that's got backdoors built into it, even if it's supposedly under control. And if there's a skeleton key, it's not going to be long before Commissioner Gordon gets drunk and angry that his ex left him for the Wiggler and decides to start stalking her accounts with the skeleton key. The Wiggler turns up dead with some odd bat-like fur under his fingernails, and Bruce Wayne is framed for murder. Gordon decides to eat his own gun rather than go to jail, and Robin ends up working that bathhouse circuit. Sorry, I got all film noir there for a bit, but hey, Marvel or DC, call me. I got a million of them. But, Christopher Nolan, hey, you got my number, bro. Anyway, at least in Europe, they are blocking this kind of thing. So if you're interested in following these kind of privacy issues, this is a pretty interesting article to get started. I wish we had this stuff in the United States, but so far, no luck. I will next be live at the Millennium Alliance CISO meeting at the JW Marriott in Atlanta, Georgia on the 27th and 28th of February. I will see you there, I hope. If so, be sure and get in touch. But thanks, Aaron, and I will see you next week on the Security Weekly News.